That's turning to the Guru again. That's opening up. He said everything suddenly became clear to him, and he understood how he had gotten into the predicament and how to get out. Just by turning to the Guru and saying, I still have a Guru. And that's the relationship, isn't it? Just wonderful. And what this brings then is relaxation. When Arjuna went through his so big troubles, chapter 2, verse 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, with my inner nature overshadowed by weak sympathy and pity. This is Arjuna, the best devotee there is, long into his spiritual path. With a mind in bewilderment about duty, turning to Krishna, I implore thee to advise me, what is the best path for me to follow? I am thy disciple. Teach me, whose refuge is in thee. And with this came an inner relaxation. And then the Gita changes. Krishna smiles on the devotee, and then his tears are tears of joy because he begins to feel a response. And then in this relaxation, then we can begin to do the meditation techniques. Because it's really hard to do them when we're all wound up, isn't it? The Sanskrit word for faith is Vishwas. Guruji said it's sometimes thought of to breathe easy, but really it means without breath. And that's the meaning of faith. That's the Sanskrit word for faith. So faith really comes in the deep meditation, or when we're forming this relationship again. So we're forming the relationship in meditation, and we're forming it in activity when we're trying to do God's will. And then, we do the techniques, they elevate our consciousness, like up the spine to the higher states, like going up in the elevators here. Things look different from the top floor than they do down here. That's the result of meditation, when we lift our consciousness. And then we can say, Lord, guide me. Faith, Dayamata has said, is not that I will now sit back and you have to do everything. That's not the definition of faith. Faith is, I will reason, I will, I will act, but guide thou my reason, will, and activity. So then we come out of our meditation and we will and we act. Guruji, again in that booklet, he was writing to Rajasi, and he said, sometimes God gives us more work than we can do. How many feel that they have more work than they can do? Yes. But if we believe, now there's that faith again. If we believe in His power to work through us, it will work. Now listen to the next part. First we behold, God is the doer, and we are the instrument. Then we see, He is the doer, and He is the instrument. Talk about a relationship. Wow. To be able to see God is the doer and the instrument. And how did that come about? That came about through activity. With all this work, asking His power to flow through. So, the subject has been a relationship with God from the very beginning, when we don't even think there is such a thing, to using our meditation and our activity. So it brings that relationship all around, all the time. Somebody came in for an interview one time and they sat down and I waited. And in the little prayer, I didn't feel the connection between the devotee and God. And they were talking about relationships, and I kept trying to bring it back, and then I listened. Finally, the devotee realized the problem with the relationships and the connection with others was that the individual wasn't having a deep enough connection with God and the relationship there. I'd like to just end with one little story about how important it is to be faithful. Going back to those very short meditations, whatever it is, to keep the connection, keep the relationship. Okay, just the value of the short meditations. When I was a boy, I was running home. I was 11 or 12. And I cut across a lot, and there was a big wooden fence about this high, solid wood, and then there were some open spaces that you could put your hand through, about 3 layers of open spaces. And this house was on the corner, and the fence was about 10 feet in from the road. So I was in a hurry to come home, and I came up the road, and I cut across, outside the fence, I cut across just that 10 feet of public right-of-way, you know. And as I was in the middle of that, just crossing that little bit of land, a huge German shepherd hit that fence with all his weight and 4 legs, and a tremendous explosion of barking and growling and everything like this. It shocked me. I must have jumped that high. And when I landed, I thought, come on now, I'm only running across the outside of your fence. That's entirely inappropriate for... And for some reason, this little 10 or 11 or 12-year-old kid that I was, I decided, that's not right. So I'm going to come back every day at noon and see you. So we lived just right across from our school, and I didn't need to go up there, but going home, I would walk the long block up, come and see this guy. And I would stand at the road, and he would hit it and bark and all this kind of stuff. And so every day I just came by, stayed there for a few minutes, and then went the rest of the way around the block and home, and then ate lunch and went out and played baseball till the bell rang. And each day I would do this, and gradually I was able to get I just stayed there for a couple of minutes. I was able to get a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer. And one day I asked myself, can I touch the fence where that hole is and where his head is right on the other side? So I was just about to touch it like that. And the lip went up on the side and the growl came out. Now, okay, you're not ready for this yet. So I kept coming, and then one day I did it again, and he let me touch the fence. And then the thought came, well, what about touching him? So I gave it a little bit longer, and I visited, and one day then I put my hand through the fence, and he put his neck like that for me to rub his neck. And then I did that for only a few days, and then I heard the shutters opening up here. This was it was a black stone. It seemed to me like it was a big palace with a big yard and a very expensive house. And the shutters opened up in some small window upstairs, and a lady called out, "Would you like to come in and play with him?" And I said to her, "I've been patting him." I called out to her, and she said, "I know. I've been watching you each day." So I said, "Yes, I'd love to." So she came down, and I went around, and she opened the gate, and I, got right down at his same level, and he came up, and he slobbered all over my face. And I thought about this story afterwards, and again in that same Rajasi Memorial booklet where Master is writing to Rajasi and said, God is like the divine great lady of the universe, living up in the top of some palace. And so many people do so many things trying to seek her hand in marriage. But the one who gets it does more than anybody else, And he succeeds in meeting her and convincing her of his love. There's that relationship again. But what worked for me in that relationship with the dog was just regularity of a little bit. So I'm saying, if we can't do all of the exercises all of the time, we should do some. If we can only make Hong Sa Om devotion short, we should do some. And every day, work on this most beautiful, beautiful relationship. Sister Gyaramata said, in a day that may be distant but is sure, when with faith we work on cultivating this relationship that exists, that is already there. So Guruji said, ignite, be with him, and awaken in the morning, ready to battle with the world, with him by your side. With faith in your power to succeed, say, come along, world, I am ready. Let's use that as an affirmation. Come along, world, I am ready. One more time. Come along, world, I am ready. Jai Guru, God bless us all.